Right, last clip then. This is clip number 7, and we're going to go over how do I actually answer this flaming question. At the end of the previous clip, I was talking about how was it marked, and I drew this on here. Knowledge just means do I know stuff? Have I learned stuff? Understanding means can I explain and elaborate? The skills is going to come from the resource booklet. Application, which is the difficult one, is justifying. Okay, am I responding to justification? But the other thing that we didn't mention is that we can bring in anything else from anywhere in GCSE geography. So any kind of knowledge and understanding or thoughts that I've got from component 1 or component 2, if they're relevant, I could put into here. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. Now, how I would structure it. Let's say I've chosen option 1. I am not going to waste time writing out blooming option 1. You might feel happy doing it, but trust me, it is just a waste of time. I've clearly said I've chosen option 1. I would then think about paragraphs. And my first paragraph I would think about is social. Okay, I've chosen option 1. Social is to do with people. People can be the tribal people, the local people in Indonesia. It could also be the wider global population. But I'm going to think about reasons to do with people, why I have chosen that option. Okay, I'm going to try and show some knowledge, I'm going to explain things, I'm going to use whatever information I can from this booklet, perfectly acceptable, you know, figure 2 shows, I could quote things, I could use the data, you know, a quick example. If I'm thinking about people, then I might be thinking about rising levels of affluence and making people wealthier. Okay, if I'm thinking about social reasons, then again I might be thinking about standard of living and the fact that the population is growing and is going to continue to grow. So there's all kinds of things that I could quote from here that are going to get me the skills marks. Within that paragraph, I'm also going to try and justify. Perhaps towards the end, once I've got my knowledge, understanding and skills into the bulk of the paragraph, why did I pick this in my justification? I picked this option because for these social reasons. I did not pick option 2 and 3 because I can also bring in other knowledge and understanding. Okay, so social obviously lends itself to terminology like population growth, inequality, distribution of income, rising living standards, quality of life. All of those things that somewhere in the back of my head I've probably learnt and revised for component 1 and component 2, I could put into this paragraph here. Now I'm going to follow the same kind of system, but my second paragraph is going to focus on economic reasons. Jobs, trade, wealth, money, why I have picked option 1. Okay, and I go through the same process. Knowledge, resources, explaining, bringing in other aspects of geographical knowledge, trade, imports, exports, globalization, core periphery model, Rostow's model of growth. I'm just thinking off the top of my head about things that I could pull into this paragraph to show the examiner I've actually thought about this option. I've made connections with other aspects of geography as well. Again, I'm going to justify. Why did I choose this? Why did I not choose the others? My third paragraph is going to focus on environmental aspects. You know, clearly the question says best for the people and best for the environment. That's got to be at the back of my head. Why is this option best for people and best for the environment? Keep thinking about that word sustainability. Is it socially sustainable? Is it economically sustainable? Is it environmentally sustainable? Okay, and obviously I think with either the rainforest or the taiga, I've got to bring in elements of climate change, current global warming, CO2 emissions, habitat loss, biosphere. So yeah, it's topic 7. water pollution, river. There's all kinds of things I can bring in terms of outside knowledge to justify why I have chosen this option. Okay, try and think about different scales on a local level with the rainforest, but then there's clearly a global implication for the tropical rainforest. Okay, now the last one is probably quite difficult, and if you are running out of time here, I would go straight to the conclusion. But if you're still in plenty of time, what I might think about are the political implications or political reasons for my decision. Okay, any government has got a duty of care towards its people as an elected democratic government. It's also got a duty of care to its environment on a local level, on a national level, but also an international level. Indonesia is clearly tied into the world economy in terms of globalisation and trade. It's an emerging country. It's an increasingly important emerging country. So I could, if I'd got time, perhaps think about putting that one in as a sort of fourth paragraph, and again follow the same kind of format. Show knowledge, explain your reasons, try and pick up some skills things. You know, you could be quoting the climate scientist here, the government official, the pressure group, the Norwegian government. That could also go into some of that. As I've said, I'm not saying write everything out, but, you know, as seen in figure 10 or as shown in graph 8b, think about the oil prices and how they're fluctuating on the global market, and how what alternatives Indonesia might want to develop to assist its people and its environment. Okay, remember, no option is going to be perfect, so I think it's perfectly acceptable in your writing to try and explain, well, it has got this drawback, but this is what you could do about it, and on balance it's still going to be better than option 2 and option 3. Okay, finally, I think you've got to do some kind of conclusion. You've got to kind of bring it all together and really realise that this is an incredibly difficult and complex issue. There is no perfect option. Every single one of them is going to have positives and negatives. Every single one of them is going to affect people at different levels: tribal, local, national, global. It's going to affect the environment at different levels. This is where I think your own thoughts and opinions could go into it. Identify the drawbacks, perhaps talk about solutions or potential solutions to how these problems of your chosen option could be overcome. Keep thinking about long-term and short-term, and that phrase sustainability, I think, again, is crucial to get into any justification, which is why I think option 1 is probably the better one to write about. I'd find it very hard to justify in the long-term sustainability how you could go with option 3 of just keep going, just keep producing palm oil and bugger the environment. Okay, as long as people are wealthy, but it's not realising that eventually it won't work. So these concepts of long-term sustainability on environmental, social and economic levels would be things to put into my conclusion. Okay? Yeah, it is difficult. This is not easy. It's really not. But if you do spend 5 minutes actually thinking and planning and stick to that structure, social, economic, environmental, if you can, political, do a conclusion and try and think for each paragraph, have I got a bit of everything in there? Have I used the resource booklet? Tick, skills marks. Have I shown a bit of knowledge that I know something? Tick. Have I explained it? Have I justified and said why I've chosen it but why I've not chosen the others? Can I draw it all together in a conclusion and put my own thoughts and opinions in? Good phrases to use. Complex issue. Everything is going to have costs and benefits. Okay? Lots of things are interlinked. You can't isolate one reason or one idea. A lot of it is interlinked and all sort of messed up together. Sustainability, but on different levels. Social, economic, environmental. That has to be in there. Long-termism versus short-termism. Try and re-quote those phrases back to them. Do you remember studying these? Business as usual, as opposed to move towards sustainability. Okay? And you should be alright. Just things to bear in mind. Tropical rainforests are generally in emerging economies and developing economies. The taiga, which is the alternative one, which could be on this year's, might not be, who knows, tends to be in developed countries. Canada, Russia being your most obvious examples. So that kind of puts a slightly different slant on it, because your developed countries are already wealthy, whereas your emerging and developing countries are doing just that, trying to get richer. Your developed economies already have a high standard of living. So that might make me lean more towards an environmental option, certainly for the taiga. Both of those biomes are globally important, not just locally important, but globally important to Earth's life support systems. Okay, there must be alternative ways. I'm almost sounding like Bosser up here, aren't I? Yeah, remember that one from the start of the booklet? And again, there's nothing to stop you putting those population resource theories in, Bosserup versus Malthus. Okay, anyway, I think that's it. Best of British. If you've listened and watched and done your revision and thought about it, you'll be fine. If you haven't, this is going to be really, really quite difficult to do. Anyway, that, I'm afraid, is over to you.